Every year, well, except last year, Georgia has a G Day, but every year it's not that exciting. This year's probably an exception to that, and there's three reasons why. I'm going to give you all three reasons and what those three reasons are that insiders are looking at and watching for this Saturday in Athens at G Day. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan, encouraging you to go to the website, make sure you're signing up for the newsletter, and while you're there, you can learn more about the three things that I'll be watching and other insiders will be paying attention to. Number one, what is the offensive line going to actually look like? Who's going to be at left tackle for good, and how do all the positions fill out? This past weekend when we talked to Kirby Smart, what he had to say was that he was wondering, who the top 5 offensive linemen were going to be, and that would dictate who the left tackle will be. Right now, it's Xavier Truss. I don't know if that's going to continue or not. We can't know that. But the best 5 on the field may or may not include Xavier Truss at left tackle. Now you're looking at the guards being an extremely competitive situation with younger guys really coming in and competing with older guys like Jamari and so forth. So the offensive line is not without talent and not without depth. The question remains, who are the top 5 players? Schaefer back, Jamari back, Erickson back, Truss back. You got Broderick, you got Tate Ratledge. There's a lot of guys to really pick from. That's just naming a few guys. Nevertheless, McClendon, who's starting at right tackle and hadn't started at right tackle the bulk of last year. So what insiders I think are going to look at, who's going to be playing left tackle and how is that going to be determined? Is it going to be determined by the best 5 offensive linemen, the right fit? Or is it going to be, hey, this person's the best left tackle? I've not even discussed, Mims, Fairchild, Van Prant. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can still make an impact on this offensive line. Number 2, who are the defensive backs? Who are they going to be? Well, who's going to be starting at corner? You have a transfer now in from West Virginia who will not be playing in G-Day, obviously. You still have a lot. There are 13 scholarship defensive backs. Keely Ringo is a guy that people are, penciling in as a guy who's going to play a lot, but we don't know what he's really like because we've not seen him healthy. You've got guys like Lewis Seen, Med Speed. You got Speed, Seen, Brini, and Chris Smith specifically really came on last year. Are they going to take Lewis Seen and put him on the outside because he's one of their best? I mean, is this an offensive lineman situation where you put your best players out there, not necessarily your best corner? But Georgia has certainly addressed some issues getting a transfer in from a solid player from West Virginia, getting him in, and that gives you some real options at that spot. And then finally, I don't know that insiders exclusively will be looking at this, but who really is the backup quarterback? I mean, there's a lot of layers to this, and there is no doubt that Carson Beck has made a move this spring, but there's a couple of things going on here at once. Number one, making a move doesn't mean you've gotten the position, doesn't mean you've jumped someone. It doesn't mean you're going to overtake the person in front of you, which in this case would be at least JT Daniels. Who is really the backup quarterback? Brock is coming off of an injury. Stetson is coming off of a demotion. And you got JT Daniels, who really surpassed expectations to some degree this past year, but the expectations have really risen for JT at this stage. So there's going to be a lot on his shoulders this fall. But lately, the backup has been really important at Georgia. And, whether that's Jake Fromm or Stetson Bennett, I mean, that person has been very important over the last, they're in the Kirby Smart era of football at Georgia. So who is that person? Is it Stetson? Is Stetson the backup during practice? And then it's Carson? Is it Carson and then it's Stetson? I mean, you listen. Sometimes I read the comments on YouTube. I don't think, obviously the bulk of people have never played a sport, nevertheless played a sport in college. The person that can come in and function in an offense in practice, that matters a lot. Whether you're talking about basketball, football, these are all things that are really important. Stetson gives you that and has given you that since 2017 with the exception of 1 year. So does that mean he would be the first person in off the bench? I mean, this is going to be something we're going to talk about a lot, I think, over the next however many months. But I just wonder who would be, are we going to see that there is a clear-cut number 2 backup on Saturday? I don't know. And a lot of people will throw their hands up and be like, well, how can it be Stetson? Well, I mean, it can be Stetson for a few different reasons. Number one, he has started games in the SEC and won them. 2 of them on the road. So that's not nothing, particularly for Kirby Smart. Number 2, this is someone who's entering their 5th year of college football. I mean, Carson Beck has taken, I think, 7 snaps at Missouri. And then, of course, Brock has not played college football at all. So my suspicion is that Carson is going to have to beat out Stetson to be the backup. And that maybe has already sort of happened. I don't know. I mean, practices have so many moving parts. There's a lot of guys that go with the 2s. But even though Stetson got a lot of time this past year, there's no question they specifically told him, I mean, I know this to be true, many people have said it to me, that he was told he would never play at Georgia, and it just turned out that he started like 6 games or whatever it was, 5. So I just wonder if the same sort of movement will be in place, that they will say, hey, look, we've gone out and recruited. This is the guy we've gone out and recruit. We're going to move him forward as the 2. I would like to see what we're really dealing with. I know we're not going to get any firm answers. It would be good for a lot of, settling in the program if you had a guy in Carson Beck that you really thought you could lean on in 2022, because, I mean, Stetson Bennett will be gone. Not that he would be the starter. JT Daniels will be gone. So you're going to have a knife fight for the starting quarterback position this time next year. And you'd like to know that someone can take the ball and run with it. And if Carson Beck can show that right now, that gives a lot of people time. I mean, Brock Vandagriff, everybody needs time. And all these guys grow at their own rate. And it's hard to know for sure how Brock is doing, how Carson is doing specifically. And I just want to see, is all of this background noise about Carson true? Or is it true and then Saturday maybe he goes backwards a step? I mean, it's a practice. It's 8% of practice essentially. It's actually a little less than that for the spring. So is Carson, is everything that I've heard about Carson reality? I'd like to see that. And I think a lot of insiders would like to see it too, because when the band is playing is when it matters. So you've got the 3 things that we're looking for. What is the situation with the offensive line? Because that can be settled right now. What is the situation with the DBs? That's a little trickier because you're waiting on someone to come in. And what is the situation with quarterback? You can start settling that now. But I think the offensive line is probably the one that's most likely to be settled quicker. And then probably the DBs, and then maybe the quarterback after that. Georgia's in really good position at quarterback. I mean, that's not been the case the last 2 years in terms of depth. But you're going to need all those guys just the same way they needed everybody in 2017. And Stetson Bennett was a part of that. He really got them ready for that Rose Bowl. And it's not me just saying nice things about Stetson. Go back and listen to everything everybody said. Those are the three things that insiders are looking for. If you want to be an insider, go to Dog Post right now, check on the newsletter, make sure you're a subscriber, and we'll see you over on the website.